Kiku explains that the town was once a vibrant castle town, but when Orochi took over, he seized the town for his own subordinates. A sumo wrestler is suddenly thrown into the air and onto Komachiyo. A sumo match is going on and Urashima was decimating his opponents. Urashima sees Kiku and is happy to see her there, assuming that she wants to marry him. He orders the other sumo wrestlers to take Kiku to him. Luffy and Zoro fight off some of the sumo wrestlers, but the wrestlers get the upper hand, pick up Kiku and take her to Urashima. Luffy and Zoro consider intervening, but remember that she is a samurai and can defend herself. The crowd jeers Kiku for being a low-class tea house waitress, but Urashima insults the audience, calling them lowly bastards. He leans in to kiss Kiku, but she jumps out of the way, takes out her sword, and cuts off Urashima's top knot. Enraged, Urashima attacks Kiku, but Luffy defends her. They fight fiercely, pushing against each other. Luffy continues his pushing battle with Urashima. Though originally at a standstill, they eventually push each other back and struggle to stay in the arena. They push themselves back up, and Luffy declares an official sumo match. Luffy dodges Urashima's hand slaps, then attempts to lift Urashima up and throw him out of the ring. At one point, Urashima throws him out of the ring, but he manages to launch himself back in. Eventually, Urashima resorts to using illegal moves in attempt to defeat him. Hold'em hears about the sumo match. He does not intervene, as he is focusing on torturing Tama. Back at the match, Luffy exclaims that Urashima cannot beat him. Enraged, Urashima uses a slap move, but Luffy knocks him back using a Haki-imbued punch. He then finishes Urashima off, using the Gomu Gomu no Gigant Tsupari move, striking him with an inflated hand and sending him flying out of the ring. Urashima crashes through several buildings before crashing into the house of Hold'em, who is attempting to tear off Tama's cheek. Hold'em is crushed by the sumo wrestler while Tama is sent flying out of the house. Meanwhile, Law prepares to go out from their hideout and meet with Luffy. However, Law finds that Bippo was suffering from food poisoning from eating the fish from the polluted river. Back at the sumo ring, after defeating the Yokozuna Urashima, Luffy demands to see the boss of Bakura Town to rescue Tama. The crowd sees them as rebels and begin attacking them. Luffy and Zoro fight off the crowd, and Kiku also joins in armed with a katana. Luffy learns that the boss of the town was Holedem, but mishears his name as Baldabu. Meanwhile, the children of the poverty-stricken Okabor town continue to face hunger. Tsuru needs to treat another child who drank the polluted river water out of hunger. Some laborers from this town work at Bakura Town, where food and clean water are plentiful. One laborer complains about his meager wage but is beaten. Back at Holedem's house, Holedem is crushed by Urashima. Tama attempts to escape, but Holedem's lion grabs her leg. Holedem lifts Urashima's unconscious body and gets up, but fire breaks out in his house. Luffy calls out for Holedem, mistaking his name to be Baldabu. At the town gate, Speed, another Beast Pirates officer, appears. Speed, who has eaten a horse smile fruit, is shocked to see the town destroyed and Hold'em's house on fire. Hold'em finally shows himself to Luffy standing on a pagoda rooftop, with Tama being held in his lion's mouth. Strangely, he accuses Luffy with affiliating himself with a certain Shuten Maru. Luffy is shocked to see a lion embedded in Holedem's stomach. Hawkins approaches Bakura Town to help fight against Luffy. Law and the Heart Pirates spot him. Meanwhile, Luffy prepares to fight Hold'em. Conflict continues to unfold in Bakura Town. Hold'em bellows away on the rooftops as Kamajiro clutches Tama inside its mouth, while her friends in the street can do nothing but watch. He orders Luffy, Zoro, and Kiku to do stand down, threatening to crush Tama under the lion's jaws. Hold'em taunts Luffy and accuses him of coveting Tama's ability for his own purposes. He is certain that the three of them are thieves working under a man called Shuten Maru, but despite Luffy's obliviousness, Holedem is convinced that his theory is correct. Kiku advises Luffy not to antagonize the Shinichi, as the Beast Pirates practically hold the entire town hostage. If a revolution were to break out, Jack, who has likely survived the attack from Zunesha in the past, would come to claim his revenge. This knowledge only irritates Luffy more so. With Tama's life at his mercy, Holedem carries on provoking Luffy, while a treasure ship full of food enters the block, overseen by Speed and her guards. It is the harvest from Paradise Farm. The mountainous stock of food charms Luffy's appetite, but he is soon reminded the young Tama's struggles with starvation, and his rage continues to swell. Luffy appoints Zoro to handle the massive cargo ship, to Kiku's startled confusion, as the two begin loosening the shoulders. Hawkins and his men ride into town, but are halted by a lone sword-wielding man hiding his face behind a basket. The man is secretly Law. Back at the center of town, Holedem authorizes his men to attack Luffy and his allies, once again reminding them that Tama's life is at stake. Regardless, Zoro effortlessly sends a number of his samurai flying. Hold'em berates him, intending to follow through on his word, as he gives Kamajiro permission to chew the girl up. Suddenly, Luffy bounces up to reach them, strikes Kamajiro's nose, and grabs hold of Tama, all before the lion is even able to bite down. Hold'em is astonished by Luffy's quickness, while Tama delights in her rescue. At the same time, Zoro is plowing through Speed's forces protecting the golden ship. Preparing to counterattack, Holodum lights up his sword with Kamajiro's fire breath and unfastens the blade into many links, bearing a longer-ranged weapon, similar to a whip. He boasts about his powerful trick mechanism sword and swings it in Luffy's direction. Meanwhile, Kiku is taken hostage by a large pirate. Zoro, caught up in fighting, invites Kiku to drop her delicate facade and put her swordplay to work. Kiku finally concedes, frees herself, and joins Zoro's battle to hijack Speed's treasure ship. On the rooftops, Luffy is weaving around Holodum's giant flaming sword. Upon noticing Tama's wounded cheek from Holodum's persecution, Luffy becomes determined to land the finishing blow. He then reels his fist back an excessive distance and lands a smoldering Red Hawk attack on Holodum's gut, knocking him out and off the roof. Tama is dazzled, recognizing the parallels between Luffy and his renowned brother. Luffy defeats Holodum, sending him crashing to the ground, then takes Tama and flees. Zoro, Kiku, and Komachio also flee on Speed's food cart. Speed sends soldiers to chase after them. Luffy gets cornered by angry citizens but easily defeats them. He hops onto Speed's back, mistaking her for a real horse. Although Speed is hostile to Luffy, Tama uses her Devil Fruit ability, creates a mochi, and feeds it to Speed, taming her. Speed immediately begins following Tama's commands, running away and helping them escape. Luffy finds Zoro's cart and hops on, but leaves to deal with the most important thing. Meanwhile, Law confronts Hawkins in the street, disguised with a gladiator helmet. Law declares a battle, and Hawkins immediately recognizes Law based on his room move and hand tattoos. Law attacks Hawkins, but Hawkins redirects the damage to other subordinates. Law fiercely fights against Hawkins. However, Hawkins receives a call saying that Luffy had defeated Holodum and Jack has been notified. Then Zoro's food cart arrives and Law hops on. Law berates Zoro for viciously provoking a fight with Kaido's men. Zoro largely ignores Law, berating him for Luffy's actions. Komachio continues carrying the ship of food with Zoro and Law on it. Beast's pirates chase after them. Luffy also steals a giant tub of water meant as a tribute to Orochi, then runs away. Komachio rides the ship of food back to Okobor town, feeding its starving citizens. However, they are confronted by Rabbitman, Batman, and Snakeman, who are angry that they are eating their stolen food. However, Luffy arrives and crushes them with the giant tub of water. The citizens cheer, happy to be saved from their starvation. However, Law warns that Luffy's actions are an act of rebellion against Wano country. Luffy ignores this warning, giving Tama an apple as a thanks for feeding him earlier. Back at Bakura town, the fire in Holodum's house continues to spread while Holodum remains unconscious. However, the lion wakes up. Also, Hawkins informs his higher-ups about Luffy, Zoro, and Law. The citizens of Okobor town take the food in the treasure ship, then take the ship apart for building material. Luffy's actions remind Tama of Ace. Ace promised Tama to help ease the country's hunger. Tama says her final goodbyes to Luffy before riding back home on Speed. Luffy's group also leaves to climb a mountain and find the ruins of Odin's castle. Kiku gets suspicious of them because they plan to visit Odin's castle. Law explains that at the mountain there is an unbelievable truth. At the top of the mountain there are graves marked for Kanjuro, Raizo, Momonosuke, Kinemon, and Odin. Heading to the ruins of Odin Castle atop Komachio, Luffy grows restless and inquisitive after hearing Law, Kiku, and Zoro mention the existence of ghosts residing at the castle. The group notices that they are being chased by a shadowy beast, and Zoro volunteers to fend it off while the rest continue on. Zoro engages the creature, a giant white tiger wielding a sword in its mouth. In the flower capital, the scene shifts to a school classroom in the middle of a lesson. The young students are learning about the strict isolationism of Wano country, as well as the downfall of the Kazuki family. The teacher paints Odin and his samurai as foolish, treacherous men, while showcasing her strange ability to elongate her neck to her students. The children regard Shogun Orochi as a hero who brought peace to Wano. An eavesdropping old man is highly disturbed by the classroom's teachings. In a different location, the city's money manager Kyoshiro is drinking with a friend as he shamelessly belittles Orochi for being a coward. Robin, who happens to be present preforming for the two, listens in. Kyoshiro muses about the supposed final words of Odin's wife uttered 20 years ago before snoozing off mid-story. He then resumes, claiming that Odin's wife placed a curse on Orochi, that the 9 samurai of the family will return in 20 years' time to kill Orochi and restore the throne. Kyoshiro is driven to laughter, amused that Orochi seems to be frightened by the empty threats of dead men. Luffy and the others arrive at the castle ruins as Zoro's battle in the woods rages on. Kiku isn't able to bear the sight of the destruction and stays idly behind. As Law leads the way, he directs Luffy towards a cluster of 9 distinct grave posts. As he inspects them closer, Luffy is taken back to see graves marked for Kinemon and Momonosuke. He remembers how he wasn't able to contact the samurai while nearing the island, and Law confesses that he too hasn't heard from them in some time, but Luffy refuses to assume the worst has happened. Just then, a chilling presence begins lurking towards them. Luffy and Law steel themselves before realizing who it is. It's Kinemon, alive after all, who verifies that he's been having indigestion for days and has been confined to the bathroom all the while. Relieved that Law was only miscommunicating, Luffy is glad to see Kinemon again, who is then suddenly embraced by Kiku, indicating that she and Kinemon know each other well. Soon after, Momonosuke enters the scene. He excitedly reunites with Luffy and informs him that Inuarashi has likewise made it to Wano. The whereabouts of Nami, Chopper, Sanji, Brook, and Carrot are finally shown. After attempting to search for their captain, the group decided to make their way to the castle as per instruction. They've now arrived just in time to reassemble with Luffy and the samurai. They all cheerfully welcome each other back, and Law states that he was the bandit lifting food from Paradise Farm, disclosing that they should have a clean food supply. Kinemon invites Law and the Straw Hat Pirates to take shelter in the castle's remains. There, Kinemon admits to his comrades that he has one last secret yet to tell them, but he fears it would be too unbelievable. Luffy implores Kinemon to tell them everything, and Kinemon proclaims that he, Kiku, Momonosuke, Kanjuro, and Raizo are not from this time period. In reality, they all came from 20 years in the past and have come to present-day Wano to fulfill their commitment. Luffy and his friends are rattled after Kinemon informs them that he and his fellow samurai have traveled across time from Wano, 2 decades in the past. Kinemon enlightens them and begins recounting the history of the kingdom, as well as Momonosuke's father, Kozuki Oden. Many years ago, the flower capital was ruled by Kozuki Sukiyaki. Oden was an unruly ronin, who was banished from the city for his violent inclinations. Free to roam wherever he chose, Oden happened upon at the lawless region of Wano, a valley notorious for its brutality and desecration day in and day out. The young Oden appeared on the scene, cutting down the mass of bandits and other troublemakers swarming the village. He sought to challenge the criminal's boss, Ashura Doji, to a duel. After coming out on top, the horde of bandits then recognized Oden as their new leader. Oden then put his underlings to work, rebuilding the village, farming crops, bridging communities, and bringing new life to the region that would become the present-day Bakura town. By Sukiyaki's appointment, Oden became the daimyo of Kuri, despite his disorderly behavior. Meanwhile, Inuarashi is reminiscing about Oden as well, recalling a time when his younger self, along with Nekomamushi, were castaways on the shore of Kuri. Oden rescued Toduo from persecution at hands of the locals and took them under his wing. Inuarashi weeps for his master's outgoing kindness, acclaiming that Oden's heroism was respected by Whitebeard himself and even Goldie Roger. Zoro emerges victorious over his battle with the giant tiger when a nearby fishing pier grabs his attention. As the samurai lament over the memories of their lost master, the Straw Hat Pirates are brimming with anger aimed at the beast's pirates and the scheming Orochi. On the night the mutiny had taken place 20 years prior, Oden fought to his last breath before he ultimately fell to his executioners. Kinemon, Kanjuro, Raizo, Kiku, Inuarashi, and Nekomamushi fled from the site of their execution and headed for Oden's castle in order to save Oden's children and his wife, Kazuki Toki. The 2 minks were tragically apprehended, but the samurai had no time to look back. They approached the scorching castle, slashing through the monstrous assailants. Oden's castle was on the brink of collapse, but the 4 samurai arrived to find Toki, Momonosuke, and his sister alive, trapped by the fire. To his shock, Toki declined Kinemon's attempt to help her escape. She commanded the 4 to make off with Momonosuke and leave to the future. Without much time to explain, Toki claimed to possess the powers of the Toki Toki no Mi, and that she had the ability to send them forward in time. She had used this power on herself many times before, but decided that she must surrender herself to fate then and there. Though Kinemon did not fully understand, he pledged that he and the other samurai would avenge the Kazuki family and restore justice to the Wano Oden worked tirelessly to forge. Momonosuke cries out for his mother, and without admonition, he and the 4 samurai appear above the castle's torched remains in abrupt daylight. Witnessing the sight of their own graves and discovering the massive industrialization of the country they once knew, Kinemon and the others came to terms with the fact that they have indeed traveled into the future. They were made unpleasantly aware of the kingdom's sorry state and how Oden's legacy had been slandered with hateful propaganda. Amidst all this regrettable change, however, Kinemon found that there was a collection of citizens who remained loyal to Oden and offered themselves to help defend the Kazuki family's honor. Kinemon continues telling the story of the past. Now that Kaido had taken over Wano country, he decided to recruit allies to fight for them. Raizo, Kanjuro, and Momonosuke escaped the country to Zoo in search of more allies. However, one by one, they accidentally got separated in Zoo, Dressrosa, and Punk Hazard. Kinemon explains that to take down Kaido and Orochi, the Ninja Pirate Mink Samurai Alliance will carry out a raid on Onigashima during the country's fire festival. The Straw Hats who arrived at Wano Country earlier have previously been assigned a task to prepare for the raid. Zoro and Usopp recruit allies by handing out encrypted flyers. Robin disguises as a geisha to learn about Orochi's plans, and Frankie works as a construction worker to find the blueprints for Kaido's mansion. The other Straw Hats are also assigned a task. Brook will carry food into the capital, Nami will pose as a kunoichi for espionage operations, Sanji will pose as a soba chef to attract allies, and Carrot, Chopper, and Kiku will meet up with Inuarashi. Kinemon uses his devil fruit powers to create costumes for them, and also introduces a new ally, Shinobu, another kunoichi. Kinemon continues telling his plan, Kinemon continues revealing his plan for the upcoming raid on Onigashima. Sanji notices that Ashura Doji is among the allies Kinemon wants to track down, but is also one of Oden's enemies that were defeated. Kinemon explains that Doji changed his ways and became a servant of the Kazuki family, but recently returned to being a criminal under the name Shutenmaru. He explains that Shutenmaru is one of his strongest potential allies. Meanwhile, Shutenmaru is in the streets of Okobore town, robbing people who just received food from Luffy. However, he is encountered by Jack of the Beast's pirates, and they quickly engage in duel. Shutenmaru manages to critically wound Jack. In Onigashima, Kaido goes on a drunken rant about Luffy, attacking his subordinates and smashing another flask. Eventually, using his devil fruit power, he transforms into a terrifying azure dragon and flies to Kuri. In Okobore town, stormy clouds fill the sky, and the citizens immediately recognize, to their shock, that Kaido has decided to appear in person. Jack and Shutenmaru notice, and so do the Straw Hats, who are hidden away at the Heart Pirate's tent. Kaido commands Jack to lead him to Luffy. A drunken Kaido makes an appearance in Okobore town in his azure dragon form. Law explains to Kinemon that he, along with the Straw Hats, were identified by the Beast Pirates. He explains that Kaido dealt in an underground smile fruit operation led by Doflamingo. However, because Luffy destroyed the factories in both Punk Hazard and Dressrosa, he ended the smile fruit operation, meaning that Kaido is in mad pursuit of Luffy. Luffy starts running toward the town. Law chases after him while the others stay behind to avoid getting exposed again. However, after seeing the rampage, Kinemon and Kiku also go because Tsuru was residing in that town. At Okobore town, Shutenmaru runs from Kaido. Kaido approaches him and offers to form an alliance with him, but Shutenmaru refuses. Then Hawkins appears and lies to Kaido, telling him that Law and Luffy are at the ruins of Oden's castle. Kaido believes him and leaves to the castle. However, as the Straw Hats were hiding near Oden's castle, they were in direct danger of Kaido's attacks. Kaido unleashes his devastating Bolo Breath move, sending a jet of fire destroying Oden's castle, blasting through the mountain and into many towns. Shocked by Kaido's dragon power, Luffy screams out his name. Kaido's Bolo Breath destroys Oden's castle, leaving the witnesses in shock, including Luffy, Hawkins, and Jack. In anger, Luffy chases after Kaido, who unleashes a drunken rampage on Okobore town. He jumps into the sky and uses his elephant gun move to strike Kaido in the head, causing him to fall to the ground. Kinemon and Kiku, having survived Kaido's attack, get up. To Kinemon's shock, however, he finds a smoldering gap where Oden's castle was. He goes to the town in case Kaido wakes up and rampages again, while Kiku goes to the mountain to find Momonosuke and the other Straw Hats. Luffy also heads in the same direction, only to find Speed's injured body. Speed explains that she was taking Tama back home but was encountered by Kaido. They were attacked by Kaido's fire breath. Luffy laments Tama's death. Out of anger, he shouts out Kaido's name, making the dragon wake up. They almost immediately engage in fierce battle. Kaido manages to knock Luffy into the ground using his tail, but Luffy gets up. In Tama's memory, he uses the elephant Gatling gun on Kaido, pummeling him with giant hockey-infused fists. Luffy pummels Kaido using his elephant Gatling gun move. Despite this, Kaido is unharmed and he knocks Luffy back with a belch. He then proceeds to attack Luffy with his tail and shoots fireballs, but Luffy evades the attacks and knocks Kaido to the ground using his Grizzly Magnum move. Kaido is largely unharmed by Luffy's attacks and turns back into his human form. He gets up and is dizzy from intoxication, but Luffy continues to fight, transforming into his Gear 4, Boundman form. He pummels Kaido with the Kong organ gun move, sending him flying and crashing into many buildings. Despite this, Kaido gets up. They participate in a final clash, and Kaido ends with victory and defeats Luffy using the Reimi Haki move. Law attempts to rescue Luffy, but is stopped by Hawkins, who launches a sea stone nail into his arm, preventing him from using his Devil Fruit ability. Hawkins attacks Law with his straw sword, but Law gets the nail out in time and escapes using his shambles move. Kaido stands over Luffy, scoffing at his aspirations to be the Pirate King. After having defeated Luffy, Kaido orders his men to imprison him. However, even while unconscious, Luffy manages to use Haoshoku Haki and knock out the goons. Despite this, Kaido transforms into his dragon form and goes back to Onigashima. After escaping Hawkins, Law ends up in a forest, still injured by the nail. However, Hawkins finds Luffy and arrests him. Meanwhile, Okobori town has been devastated by Kaido's attack. Tsuru tends to an injured old man, where Kinemon in disguise sees her for the first time in 20 years. He also sees Doji ride by. Kiku finds a giant sinkhole where Odin's castle once was. She finds that the Straw Hats were inside. Shinobu had used her devil fruit to decay the ground, creating a sinkhole. The Straw Hats fell in, avoiding Kaido's bolo breath, and Chopper used his guard point to save the others from falling. Meanwhile, Inuarashi finds Tama's unconscious body. She had survived Kaido's attack and was still breathing. Wanted posters of Luffy are released throughout the country, and the Straw Hats are shocked that Luffy would take on Kaido himself. Luffy is taken to Udon, Wano Country's industrial district, to be forced into slavery. One of the particularly dangerous prisoners, who is hidden, is fed poisonous fish, but the guards are instructed to remove the bones first. However, the guard does not do so. Luffy walks through and glares at the guards. One guard mocks him and attacks him, but the unknown prisoner spits out a sharp fishbone at him, piercing him in the neck. Luffy is sent to his cell and finds Eustace Kid, who also swears revenge on Kaido. They immediately recognize each other, ending the Wano Country arc's first act. Newspapers reach Kurigana Island, the island where Zoro trained. Dracule Mihawk receives a newspaper from one of the birds. Perona also sees the newspaper and is shocked to see Moria's image on the front page, apparently having carried out a zombie raid. She's happy to hear that Moria is still alive, and decides to leave to see him again. Before she leaves, Mihawk tells her that leaving was the best decision, as a strange topic was brought up at the Levely. Meanwhile, on Fulalid, an island dubbed the Pirate Paradise, Blackbeard sits in the shadows near a newspaper depicting Sabo. Then Moria's army raids the island in search of Absalom. Moria demands to see Teach. One of Blackbeard's captains, Avalo Pizarro, watches. Then Moria spots Absalom, to his relief. However, Moria is attacked from behind by an invisible assailant. Moria finds that the attacker, Shiryu, has Absalom's devil fruit ability to become invisible. He then finds that Absalom was really Katarina Devon in disguise. Moria realizes, to his horror, that Absalom has been killed for his devil fruit powers. Just then, Blackbeard uses his devil fruit ability to create a tremor, drawing Moria's attention. He warns Moria through Denden Mushi not to interfere, then tells the citizens to board his ship. Blackbeard then informs Moria of recent news. On the fourth day of the Levely, officers of the Revolutionary Army appeared and clashed against Admirals Fujitora and Ryokugyu in an attempt to free Kuma. In other news, Luffy and other members of the Worst Generation are gathered in Wano Country, with Big Mom in mad pursuit of Luffy. Blackbeard then creates another tremor. As the Wano Country arc's second act begins, Inuarashi and Doji quickly engage in a sword fight. The battle leads in a standstill. Mid-battle, Inuarashi exclaims that he is here to fulfill Odin's dream of taking over the country again. Suddenly, the battle is interrupted by Kinemon's fire slash. Doji immediately walks away from the battle. He explains that he is refusing to join the plan because Kinemon abandoned the country for 20 years. Back at Hitetsu's house, Tama's injuries are treated by Chopper and a few mink doctors. She explains that she fainted from fear upon seeing Kaido, but was otherwise unharmed aside from a few minor scratches. Chopper explains to her shock that Luffy had been captured and sent to Udon's excavation camp. In Udon, Luffy is sentenced to hard labor, where he must carry large blocks of stone. He receives 1 kibi-dango for every 5 blocks he hauls. However, Eustace Kid runs past, knocking the dango out of Luffy's hand and trampling over it. Kid, who works extremely fast, gets an enormous pile of dumplings to eat. In the Flower Capital, while the newsboy informs the people about various criminals, several of Kinemon's allies, including Usopp, a heart pirate, and Bippo, hand out flyers to recruit allies. Many of these allies mysteriously find the paper in their hands, calling it the work of a ghost. Some recruits are hesitant while some are willing to join. Meanwhile, Nami and Shinobu spy on Orochi's mansion. Shinobu uses her devil fruit powers to decay holes into the attic, where they spy on Orochi's men from above. However, they are caught and barely escape with Shinobu panicking. In Onigashima, the other 2 all-stars of the Beast Pirates, King and Queen, reprimand Jack for not bringing in enough offerings from Kuri. They also furiously bicker with each other. Nami and Shinobu are caught spying on Orochi's men in the attic. The soldiers pierce through the ceiling with spears, which causes Shinobu to panic. They climb into the attic, but Nami and Shinobu just manage to escape onto the rooftop. Shinobu reveals that she panicked because she was terrified of sharp objects. Despite being caught, Nami found out where Orochi was stockpiling his weapons. They leave using Shinobu's kite. Along the way, they see Sanji, who has attracted a line of hungry customers posing as a soba chef. However, he attracts some rivals who spy on him. Meanwhile, in Udon, Luffy and Kid work furiously to haul stone blocks, each earning a giant pile of dango. However, the warden, Dobon, a smile user who rides inside a hippo's mouth, is furious that his food stores have been depleted by Kid and Luffy. The hippo swallows Luffy and Kid, where Dobon could attack them inside the hippo's stomach. However, even weakened by sea stone handcuffs, Luffy and Kid manage to defeat Dobon, who spills out of the hippo's mouth. The prisoners cheer for them as they walk away. Sanji becomes popular from his soba shop, but he attracts some unwanted rivals. Members of the Kyoshiro family approach him and demand that he pays to run his business. When Sanji refuses, the thugs start to attack the shop and terrorize a little girl, knocking her bowl of soba onto the floor. Strangely, tears appear in the girl's eyes, but she laughs. Sanji is greatly angered by the wasted soba. They quickly begin to fight, and Sanji easily emerges victorious. Frankie also joins in and defeats a thug. Sanji then force feeds the wasted soba to one of the fighters. After the fighters have been tied up, the little girl appears. She introduces herself as Otoko, a name the Straw Hats find humorous because it means male. She also reveals that she works as a kamuro, a courtesan's attendant, and worked hard to pay for the soba. A woman chimes in and explains that there is a single oiran, courtesan, named Komurasaki. She also reveals that Robin had been invited to Orochi's mansion. At Udon's excavation camp, Luffy becomes a celebrity among the prisoners for beating up Dobon. He also gives some food tickets to an old man that he saved earlier. Then Reizo appears, having snuck into the prison. He reveals that he knows the location of the key to Luffy's sea stone handcuffs, but it is kept under tight security. Reizo disappears and goes to steal the key. Back at the Flower Capital, Komurasaki walks up to Orochi's mansion. Komurasaki the Oiran parades through the streets of the Flower Capital, stunning the spectators with her beauty. In Udon, Luffy continues to break rocks but is approached by Caribou, who begs him for food. Previously, Caribou met Luffy in the Sabaudi archipelago and terrorized Fishman Island, but was defeated by Luffy. He would later continue his crimes in the New World until being captured by ex-Drake and was sent to Udon for hard labor. Meanwhile, Kyoshiro's henchmen, who were defeated by Sanji, report to their leader. Kyoshiro is unfazed, but decides to contact Queen to send assassins after Sanji. At the castle, Orochi finally appears as a multi-headed serpent. At the procession, a group of people threatens to assassinate Komurasaki. However, they are swiftly defeated by guards. More about one of the assassins, an old man named Bingo, is revealed. Bingo was an old man who fell in love with Komurasaki, who promised him that they could live together if Bingo bought her freedom from the pleasure house. To earn money, Bingo became a miserly moneylender, who sold his storehouse, abandoned his wife, and stopped buying medicine for himself to save money. Sickly and homeless, Bingo finally raised the money to free Komurasaki from the pleasure house. He would find out, however, that Komurasaki spent Bingo's money on herself, and she had no intention of marrying him. Bingo was humiliated, penniless, and heartbroken, and was cruelly beaten by other men. Back in the present day, Bingo and the other assassins are exiled from the Flower Capital for being poor. Komurasaki reveals that she exploits unsuspecting men for their money. Zoro goes to a gambling house where he plays an odds and evens game with dice. He wins, earning an impressive sum. However, the other Straw Hats do not know where he is, so they consider him missing. At the construction company, Frankie is reprimanded by his boss, Minatomo, for arriving to work late. Frankie asks for the blueprints for Kaido's mansion, but Minatomo states that he had pawned them away a decade ago. After starting a fight, Frankie is fired and leaves to go to the pawn shop. Frankie goes to the pawn shop where he is led to another person named Kumagoro. He goes around town in search of the blueprints, being led to different people, and eventually reaching a dead end as he is told the blueprints are in Kuri. He finds Kanjuro, who is selling fish drawn with his devil fruit ability. Kinemon then calls, telling him to support other missions around the capital. Meanwhile, Wanda, Carrot, and other minks break into a factory to steal food and weapons. They leave a note saying that the Mount Atama thieves were the culprits. This way, the Beast Pirates would blame and attack Doji for the theft, forcing him to join Kinemon's alliance. Wanda and Carrot bring the supplies to Kinemon. At the gambling house, a gambler attempts to cheat against Zoro. A man hiding under the table uses a needle to push the dice over. Detecting the cheating, Zoro unleashes a swordless dragon twister attack, uncovering the table and revealing the man. The gamblers turn on him and begin to fight. Zoro defeats the gamblers and takes the money from the loser. Zoro leaves with one of the gamblers, Tonoyasu, to the town Ebisu. Orochi finally makes a human appearance at his mansion and meets with masked agents of CP0. The agency had previously participating in shady underworld dealings with the Joker Doflamingo. But now that Doflamingo was defeated, CP0 was forced to deal with Wano Country directly. However, because Wano Country was already self-sufficient, Orochi made unreasonable demands, even demanding the mysterious Dr. Vegapunk. Outside the mansion, Komurasaki arrives at the gate. Meanwhile, Momonosuke reveals to Tama that he has a mysterious sister named Hiyori, and he does not know whether or not she is alive. Tonoyasu takes Zoro to his hometown, Ebisu Town. The town is poverty-stricken like Okobore Town, but its citizens laugh despite their circumstances. Citizens of the town claim that an unknown thief named Ushimitsu Kozo steals from the rich and gives the money to poor tenements. A girl offers him a cup of clean water, which to them is a luxury. Meanwhile, at the flower capital, Orochi demands a luxurious dinner, wastefully rejecting many of the prepared meals offered to him. He also demands several geishas, including Robin undercover, to dance for him. Komurasaki and the Kiyoshiro family also join in the dinner party. Sanji is working at his soba shop when Law comes and warns him of incoming threats. He explains that the top 6 Shinichi of the Beast Pirates are known as Tobiroppo. 2 of these Tobiroppo, Page 1 and X-Drake, are after Sanji, with Hawkins also joining in. Both are ancient Zoan users. Page 1 can transform into a Spinosaurus and Drake an Allosaurus. At Uden, Caribou tells Luffy a false rumor that Eustace Kid lost his arm at the hands of one of Big Mom's subordinates. Kid suddenly appears and debunks this rumor, stating that he lost his arm battling the Red Hair Pirates. Nami and Shinobu land their kites on the rooftop of Orochi's mansion and make their way inside. Inside, Robin sneaks out. Brook also snoops around, using his devil fruit ability to separate his soul from his body. He finds a strangely reinforced door, and upon passing through the door, he finds Kaido's poneglyph. In Onigashima, Kaido is informed that Big Mom is arriving from the southeast, and that her ship is riding up the waterfall being carried by carp. Kaido orders his men to fire at her ship. The cannons fire, but Perospero blocks the fire with candy. Then other Big Mom pirates destroy the cannons. Big Mom exclaims that she won't let Luffy get away. Orochi throws a banquet at his mansion as a pre-party for the upcoming fire festival. He tells his subjects to dance and drink. Just outside Wano country, Kaido's cannons attempt to sink Big Mom's ship, but they fail to do so. Big Mom's ship passes through 7 defense lines, so Queen prepares a final defense. However, Big Mom breaks through the defense line using her Ikoku attack, cutting off Queen's surveillance. Big Mom's ship is now climbing the waterfall into the country. In response, Kaido declares an all-out war against the Big Mom pirates. King decides to be proactive. He uses his ancient Zoan powers to transform into a Pteranodon. He flies out to Big Mom's ship and pushes the ship back down the waterfall. Big Mom then falls overboard and into a whirlpool, sinking due to being unable to swim. Page 1 walks through the flower capital in his Spinosaurus form and rampages, destroying soba shops. Sanji, who must avoid getting caught by the beast pirates, runs away. However, upon hearing the cries of the terrorized citizens, Sanji rushes to confront Page 1. He takes out his raid suit, ready to battle. Sanji activates his raid suit cam, transforming into a more powerful, scientifically advanced Stealth Black. Although he is formally named Stealth Black in Germa 66, Sanji decides to name himself Soba Mask. Sanji begins fighting Page 1, knocking him down with a kick in the throat. Page 1 attacks with his claw, but Sanji then blocks the attack with his cape, which turns into a solid shield. Most notably, Sanji's suit allows him to turn invisible, allowing him to attack Page 1 with super speed. Page 1 collapses and transforms into his hybrid form. Meanwhile, in Udon, Luffy asks Eustace Kid for more dumplings while in his cell, who ignores him. Orochi's lavish party continues at his mansion, and Komurasaki plays him a song on her shamisen. Meanwhile, Robin, who has snuck out of the party, looks in a room for the poneglyph. However, she is quickly detected by the Orochi Oniwabanshu, Shogun Orochi's personal military force consisting of ninjas. Fukurokuju, the ninja leader, gives Robin a chance to explain herself. Sanji, as Soba Mask, continues to battle fiercely against Page 1. At one point, Page 1 gets the upper hand, picking Sanji up and throwing him into houses. Sanji is unharmed, but wants to avoid damaging the houses in battle. So, after unleashing one powerful attack, Sanji escapes into the sky. Usopp, Law, and Frankie also flee to avoid being identified. Most of the Big Mom pirates survive the attack from King unharmed, but they are separated from Big Mom, who is sinking to the bottom of the sea. Meanwhile, Komurasaki finishes her song on her shamisen. Robin is confronted by the Orochi Oniwabanshu, who offers her a quick and painless death if she told them the truth. Robin attempts to lie to get out, but the ninjas detect this and attack her. Robin attempts to escape, but one of the ninjas captures her with a grappling hook on a rope. Another ninja attacks her with shurikens. After being attacked, Robin disintegrates, revealing that it is simply a clone of herself made with her devil fruit ability. The real Robin, who is outside, contacts Nami and Shinobu, who decide to go after Fukurokuju. Robin then is forced to disconnect, keeping her disguise as a geisha and attending to a drunk partygoer. Brook decides to go out to protect Robin, separating his soul from his body. Meanwhile, the ninjas scatter, not wanting to disrupt Orochi's party. On the beaches of Kuri, Chopper trains with Tama while Momonosuke practices his swordsmanship. They express concern for Raizo, who has infiltrated the Udon prison but has not responded to them yet. Chopper then climbs a bamboo stalk and notices a mysterious large object in the distance. Robin rejoins the party, attending to Orochi and pouring him a drink. She manages to get some plans from Orochi about the upcoming fire festival. Orochi reveals that there will be a lavish banquet, and all the country's major officials and Beast's pirates will be there. Meanwhile, Brook floats through the hallways but is spotted by the ninjas. Brook appears in front of them, who are frightened, mistaking him for a ghost. The ninjas then do a full sweep of the mansion, searching all the rooms and stabbing the ceiling, scaring Nami and Shinobu hiding in the attic. They also search the party area, and Robin hides from patrolling ninja. Chopper and the others go to the object and find, to their shock, that it is the unconscious body of Big Mom, who is washed ashore after King's attack. To their horror, she wakes up. However, she has lost all her memories and does not know who or where she is. Big Mom has lost all her memory from King's attack, even forgetting her own name. Chopper, who wants to avoid reminding her that she was an emperor, lies, stating that her name is Olin. Big Mom believes him. Meanwhile, Orochi retells the ghost story of Wano and the prophecy told. He states that as this was the 20th anniversary of Odin's death, the 9 red scabbards are bound to make their return as ghosts and restore the Kazuki family's reign. He is already aware of the intruders that entered Wano country, Zorojuro and Sangoro, and suspects that they are allied with Kinemon. The partygoers think he is delusional and stifle laughs to prevent offending Orochi. However, Toko decides to laugh very plainly and loudly, despite others trying to stop her. Angered, Orochi prepares to attack her, but is stopped by Komurasaki, who slaps him across the face. Komurasaki then refuses to bow to Orochi, then reveals that she is a samurai's daughter. Infuriated that his most beautiful subject has turned on him, Orochi turns into an 8-headed serpent. Still, Komurasaki refuses to apologize. At that point, Orochi goes into a blind rampage, attacking innocent partygoers with his other 7 heads. He then bites Komurasaki, crushing her body in his jaws. Meanwhile, Robin rescues Toko and takes her away, but is spotted and cornered by the ninjas. However, Brook scares them off, pretending to be a ghost. Kyoshiro relishes in the slaughter, calling it pandemonium, then unsheathes his sword. The ninjas refuse to help the Oiran because they are busy dealing with an intruder. They expose Robin in front of the party, revealing that she is an intruder. However, Brook appears and scares most of the ninjas away, and Robin fights some of them off with her devil fruit ability. Nami and Shinobu watch from the ceiling when they are confronted by a ninja, Hanzo. Hanzo explains that Shinobu used to be extremely attractive and would kill her victims by seducing them first, earning her the name Man-Killer. Shinobu then knocks out Hanzo, then rots the ceiling, causing all 3 of them to crash into the banquet. Some rubble hits Orochi's head, causing him to let go of Komurasaki. Orochi gets back up and finds Komurasaki, but Kyoshiro steps in, unsheathes his sword, and slices her chest. This even angers Orochi. Kyoshiro states that Komurasaki broke the Iron Rule by disobeying the shogun. However, he finds the paper containing the rebellion symbol, implying that Komurasaki is affiliated with Kinemon's alliance. Orochi then goes to attack Robin to capture Toko. The ninjas also realize that Brook is not attacking them, and they stop fearing him. However, Nami takes out Zeus, who has been stored in her climb attack. Nami feeds Zeus some weather eggs, and Zeus then unleashes a powerful lightning attack, striking down Orochi.